Okay, hello again, everyone. My name is Carter. I'm a junior Extemp officer at Anderson, and this lecture is about substructure and conclusion for Extemp speeches. So let me share my screen and we can get started. Hopefully you are having a good week. I feel like Image Chamberlain when I do this. Just kidding. I can never. Okay, cool. So substructures and conclusions. If you don't know what a substructure is, basically it's just like the imaginary structure of a point. So when you're speaking it, it's just to like have more structure to follow, just so you can like make your point more understandable to the judge. If I can start it. Apparently I can't start it. Okay, so quick review. In my intro video, I talked to y'all about what the parts of an intro is. So your AGB, your link, your background, your SIG statement, question, umbrella answer, and your preview or 3 points. Today, I'm going to break that down even farther into what you have on this part of your screen. And specifically the ABI part, which is the substructure that we're going to talk to y'all about. And then also these transitions to make your speech just fire. And then I will also talk to y'all about conclusion, which is super easy, and I'm sure y'all will all understand at least the conclusion part of the speech. So let's get started. So your 3 main points. As you hopefully now know, there are 3 points for an Extemp speech. You can do 2, but I'm just going to teach y'all how to do 3, and then once y'all like master 3 points, we will move on to 2 points at a farther date. So the basics. Your 3 points should support your umbrella answer. Not every speech is going to have an umbrella answer, especially for speech. For novice, I'm sorry. So eventually we're gonna get y'all to where you have an umbrella answer, but if you don't, that's fine. You can just be like, for 3 key reasons, first, second, third. If that makes sense. I think that's in one of the other, it should be in one of the other ones, but if not, we'll just teach all that later. Each point should be different, so you don't want to mix and match parts of your points. When I was a novice, and even now, something I struggle with is that I want to like break 1 point down into 2 or even 3 different points so I can have 3 points, but they end up bleeding through. And that's really one of the things that I try to work on still, is not having bleed through as an extemper. And to do that is you want to make sure your points are all like explicitly different. So if you think like, oh, this is a good point, like this is something interesting that I could elaborate on, try to like steer clear of that, because your judge is going to be like, your points are similar, and like that's not good. Each point should be around 90 seconds. So your intro is 90 seconds, your 3 points are 90 seconds, and then you have your like short conclusion to hit 7 minutes or go over. 2 sources per point. So you have 2 in your background and then 2 in all your points. So I think that's what, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yes, okay, cool. Also, I'm in speech and debate, not math club. It's just you'll learn that very quickly. So I know 2 sources. Like, how in the world am I going to memorize 2 sources? As a novice, honestly, start with 1 and everything. But eventually you can like try to do 2. But just doing 1 per everything as a novice is fine. But eventually we are going to move you up to do 2 sources, because that's just like what you have to be at as a varsity extemper. But don't like fret about sources, just try to have at least 1. So to begin a point, so you're gonna want to transition from your parts of the speech. And what I mean by that is it's like awkward when you transition if you don't like have anything to say. So for example, like if you finish your intro and you're like, question, answer, 1, 2, 3, and then you just like go to your next point, there's not really a transition, and your judge is going to get lost in like, okay, where are they in the speech? So you're going to want to do something to transition yourself. As a novice, a lot of the things people just say are like, the first reason why is, and then just start, the first reason why, and then just start talking, which is fine for like, for being a novice, that's fine. But if you can, you want to try to add some spice to that. So in order to do that, we're going to do like these fun transitions, which like they don't come easily. You kind of have to work on them to make them good, but we'll work on it. So you always want to transition between your parts of the speech. So after you do your intro and you answer your question, and then when you go to your first point, you want to transition. Same thing, like first to second point, second to third, third to conclusion, etc. Basically, what we call these are on tops, which is just a fancy way of calling it like a transition between points. It's called an on top because like you're on top, like you're at the top of your flow pad, basically, like the top of your point before you start diving into it. So it's just called an on top. So if they ask you like, what is your on top? Like the judgment, like in general, if they say like an on top, it's just a transition. So you're going to want to connect it to your question somehow, but you don't want to like talk about your question. It just relate to the subject, and you're going to want to keep it short. So while you're transitioning from like your question or your point, you're going to want to have something like fun or something interesting in the transition. So you can be like, well, like on that note, let's blah 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 or something. Like it's really dependent on what you're talking about, but it's just something like fun to keep the conversation flowing, so there's not like any awkward silence. And then once you finish your on top, you can be like, which is why first, or like, which is why second, and then you start your point, if that makes sense. And we'll work with that. This is just like be mindful of how to transition your points. Like, again, everything we're talking about in these lectures we'll cover more in depth in person. Okay, moving on. So your point substructure. This is like the meat and potatoes of this lecture. So if you skip through everything, just listen to this. Your point is going to have subpoints of like A, B, and I, meaning this is just like some weird letters to help structure your flow. So there's a lot of ways to do this, but the way I do it is you want to start with a source citation. So being like, which is why first, and then say what your point is. So like, which is why first, TikTok is good. And be like, an article published by the New York Times to like get the ball rolling with your point, and then like give you legitimacy, like you're citing someone. And then you're gonna like want to follow logical progression. So just like not like you want to introduce your information first and then continue. Let me find like one of my old flows to show y'all what that looks like. Okay. I don't think y'all are gonna be able to see this, but like maybe you will. Oh no, this is a terrible idea. Okay, maybe like, okay, yeah, right here. So you see how I write one and then A, B, I, and then I'll write like my parts of the speech. I know you'll definitely can't see this and this is a terrible idea, but like, I don't know, just roll with it. We'll do it in person, it'll make more sense. But yeah, and then more in depth, the structure of a point. So basically it's gonna follow like a narrative arc. These are some of Elijah's words that I stole from him. That's why it's like so more eloquent than me. But basically the way you want to think about it is that it is like, you've all seen the chart in English when it's like do 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 do. So that's like how you want to structure your point. And I'm gonna talk about that in a second, but just think like you're gonna do your on top or transition here, and then you're gonna like cite a source, and then you're gonna like get into like the bulk of your point, and then you're gonna give your impact, and then you're gonna transition until your next point. So again, like this is so confusing, I know, but just bear with me. Take some good notes, and we'll do it in person. It'll make sense. But you're always want to start with context. This is again like the logical progression we were talking about on the last slide. You want to give your context with your source, like according to blah 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 context, okay? And then B, you're gonna do your rising action, which is like just the bulk of your point, and then your C/I will be your impact or climax. Like, why does this matter? Again, it's just so like you always are hitting your judge with like an impact. And then, okay, types of substructure. So what you can do is some things from this list. Different scenarios obviously call for different types of substructure. So you're just gonna have to see what works based on the question that you get. The one I really like to use is past, present, future, or status quo, change, impact. So basically what that means is on your flow, you're gonna have like first point, okay, TikTok is good. And then you're gonna do A, B, or, you know, we'll do TikTok is educational. And our question can be something about like, should TikTok be banned? And we say no, because first point, TikTok is educational. So our first thing, and this is going to be like claim, link to question, impact. So we'll do this one. Okay. So our claim is TikTok is educational. So we're going to start with, oops. So sorry about that. Okay. So our claim is TikTok is educational. So we're going to want to back that up. So we're going to be, here's a source, New York Times. They say like TikTok helps kids learn. Okay. And then we're going to do like link to question. Like this shows that people, like it shouldn't be banned because it helps people learn. And then your impact. Like if we were to ban TikTok, then kids wouldn't have like educational resources because it got banned. And that's why. And I know that was like a really terrible introduction to it, but it's just like really awkward to teach us on Zoom. But it's basically just how you structure that ABI. So we can do another example. We'll do more in person, but this is just like start your understanding. We'll do like a past, present, impact. So this could be something like international security or something like that. When it's talking about like maybe like we can do something on the protest. So like in the past, like criminal justice, there's always been like calls for criminal justice, and then criminal justice, and then our transition into like our present can be like something about George Floyd. And then we like, which prompted, I think that's how you spell his name. My apologies, George. That's not how you spell your name. Mr. Floyd. Present, which is why it caused protests. And because of this, in the future, we can see that there will be like reforms, I guess, if that makes sense. So again, like it doesn't, you don't have to like overthink it, and you also don't need to like be like super like, well, that's not really like the past, present, future, or whatever. It's just so that you have some way of thinking in your mind just like quickly, like this is how I want to structure my point, so it's not as like awkward when you're trying to find something, so you don't feel like you're just throwing random words at the judge, like it has a meaning. So honestly, past, present, future, or claim, link, impact, or status code change impact are probably the best, but you just want to structure always some kind of like, this is how things work, or like this is why I'm arguing this, and then like some kind of catalyst that changed that, and then the impact of that, if that makes sense. So this is always something that's like hard to teach, and usually people have a hard time, like I know I had a hard time trying to like grapple with it, and we can do more when we do like flows, like you really have to flow a speech, but this is just something you can like think about, make sure you take notes on it, like this is how you can structure a point, if that makes sense. Sorry, my dog's in here eating stuff. Okay. Conclusions. So we are now, let me show you where we are. Okay, so you literally repeat that transitions ABI for all your points. And now we're at the conclusion of your speech. So we just finished our third point. So we're gonna wrap up our speech in 60 seconds, and it's our conclusion. So ground rules. Extemp speech is like a ride on an airplane. And by that, I mean, just pretend you're on an airplane with me. Close your eyes. So what you're gonna remember is the takeoff. Like the pilot got you into the sky, it's fine. Okay. Then you're flying, it's fine. Maybe you're sleeping, you're watching Netflix, you're not really paying attention, and then you start descending and landing. Okay. So where the judge is gonna pay the most attention to your speech is it's gonna be your intro right here, where you're talking about stuff, and then you're gonna babble about points, and he or she, them, are just gonna do whatever they want to do, and then you're gonna conclude, and they're gonna start paying attention again. So if you do nothing else, conclude and intro eloquently. Another good thing, no new information, ideas, or sources. So sometimes kids will cite sources in their conclusion, and that's just like an automatic no-no because the judge is like, what are you doing? And then lastly, you want to talk slow and remember your points. So if you're like wanting to fill more time, talking slow is a really good thing, but also just in general, just to like help your judge remember what you were talking about, and talking slow so that they can like make sure that they know what you're talking about. So structure. So you're going to want to transition from your points to your conclusion. And pretty much the thing that literally everyone says is like, so when looking back on today's question, or when returning to today's question, or when we come back to today's question, something that's like when coming back to the question. And then you're going to want to say your question. So like, so when looking back on today's question, should TikTok be banned? And then you'll just reset your answer. The answer is no for 1, 2, 3. And then after you say that, you want to give like a last line or like some kind of mic drop moment so that the judge will remember you. So you can be like, so when looking back on today's question, should it be banned? The answer is no because 1, 2, 3. And then be like, and because, or like, as a result, or something like, if TikTok were to be banned, like America would be such a worse place, or something like good. Like the examples I just gave were bad, but something that like is funny or like will get the judge's attention, so the judge will be like, wow, like that was a good speech. And like that's what I'm gonna remember. Because like again, the conclusion and the intro is where they're really gonna pay attention. So if like you can stick your conclusion, it's like better than flopping like your second point. And then here's an example. So like, so when looking back on today's question, the answer is a clear ball because 1, 2, 3, and then you're gonna either like reword your SIG or reword your AGD or something that like will make the judges be like, okay, that was a good speech, and like, wow. All right, that's all I have. I know this was kind of like quick, but it's a very important that you use Substructure and you stick your conclusions. So we're gonna really be working hard on Substructure and like working on your points in camp. So hopefully you'll learn stuff from this and bring your questions back and we'll answer them and do some more drills to help with that. But with that, thank you for watching. Have a good day or night whenever y'all watch this. Goodbye.